This week on Stay in the Truck, we'll preview Week 5 of college football. So grab you a cold beverage and let's go. Welcome to Stay in the Truck, the ultimate podcast for sports enthusiasts and avid gamblers alike. Each week we'll provide you with invaluable insights, analysis, and tips to elevate your game. We can be found on all major podcast and social media outlets. See the show notes for details. Stick around to the end to hear this week's most boneheaded sports moments with our Stay in the Truck Awards. So let's jump right into this week's show. All right, guys. So must-see TV did not disappoint. We had 6 ranked versus ranked matchups this week, and a lot of, I think, the college football stories and, you know, what rankings and what teams ranked here or there has all started to shape up a little bit. Still not sure who is the solid standout team. You know, I'm thinking maybe Washington might be that one team. I'm not real sure if USC has really been tested, but I don't know. Everybody else seems to have some little chinks in their armor, you know.
Well, Florida State's pretty good. They played their ass off at the end of that game last week.
Yeah.
Now, Dabo doing Dabo stuff. Clemson's defense, they held Jordan Travis in check for the most part. Cade Klubnik, we're still unsure about him, but, you know, looks like he's turning the corner. He had 283 yards and a touchdown. He didn't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
He missed a lot of passes behind the receivers. It just seemed like he wasn't overly accurate for the day.
I think his play calling, man. I mean, I mean, he's not 100% accurate, but
I think that's been known all year. His accuracy has struggled from the start. Like, he looked like garbage, hot garbage coming out of the gate this year.
I think Clemson outplayed Florida State, but Florida State, they just capitalized on the big plays.
Well, Clemson played like they have something to lose because they do.
That was it.
I mean, Florida State, you know, yes, they're undefeated and they have something to lose technically, but Clemson's already down one, and they're looking for a redemption tour. Like, they had to show everybody that was a fluke. This game left me with one real question. You know, and I watched the game, the highlights of the game, and I walked away from that, and the only real question in my brain was, is Duke that good?
Ooh. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I don't know about that.
I mean, and we can touch on that later.
I got a feeling Duke might be getting crushed this week, but we'll
get to that in a minute. But I just wanted to say that I walked away from FSU Clemson thinking to myself, is Duke that good? Because of the way those teams struggled. And we know that FSU is kind of battle tested right now. The problem with FSU is they come out looking so good against LSU.
Yeah.
And then they go to Boston College and almost shit the bed.
Well, but if you go back to that LSU game, think about their defensive backs. They're terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's starting to show. LSU's going to have to outscore everybody, but FSU handled. They were losing at halftime. LSU they had the game won into the fourth quarter, really. But Florida State came back. They go on the road here to Death Valley. Very hard to play. It was an early game, kind of a sleepy little walkthrough. And, you know, at halftime, FSU's trailing by 3.
You know, this is the second week in a row that FSU has just squeaked by for the win.
Yeah.
This is also, you know, FSU with this win snapped a 7-game winning streak in Death Valley.
Yeah. Yes, I mean.
2 of them. 2 of them. Yeah. They well, actually, the first was the first one a home game. But have y'all seen the Jordan Travis T-shirts that he had made? So Jordan Travis had his own T-shirts made, and the proceeds are going to go to I forgot what it said, but the proceeds of the shirt sales are going to go to something. But it's got a almost like a caricature, cartoonish type version of him, and it's got him like ruling over 2 tigers. You know, and then one tiger is more representative of Clemson and the other one of LSU. But it's got him ruling over the 2 tigers, and he's going to sell.
He's like the Tiger King now?
The Tiger King.
Well,
that's
yeah,
right.
that's the thing. I think it says Tiger King on it, and
I don't think he can use
Maldonado or whatever that guy's name is in jail. He's suing him. I saw that.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's filed a lawsuit against
I was about to say, I
Georgia
didn't think he
Travis.
could use the Tiger King. I thought that's all where he could use that.
Yeah, I saw a story where I think his name's is it Maldonado? I can't remember what
like
the
that.
dude's name is, but anyway, the
Tiger
Tiger King
King.
guy,
Yeah.
has filed a lawsuit against him for using the Tiger King moniker
Well,
on the shirt. So.
Wow.
If he didn't trademark it,
Yeah, true. But that guy's a nut job. He probably did trademark it.
So right now, the ACC, and this is going into week 5, the ACC has 6 undefeated teams. And this is tied with the 2012 season with the SEC for the most teams in a Power 5 conference to start 4-0 in a single season. I didn't realize all that, so I started looking. So you got Duke, UNC, Syracuse, Miami, FSU, and Louisville.
Yeah, the ACC is going to be tough. The Miami Florida State game's probably going to decide the division now, depending on the conference now, depending on what Duke ends up doing, in the next couple of weeks. But if you go back to the end of this Florida State and Clemson game, huge play, linebacker Kalen DeLoach, bam, crushes Klubnik, scoop and score, 56-yard fumble recovery.
He laid him out, too.
He laid him out. Yeah, he absolutely laid him out. That ties the ball game. No score in the fourth quarter. You got 1:45 left on the clock. Clemson gets it all the way down to the FSU 12. Now, the kicker. Funny story about the kicker. Last week, he was sitting on his couch taking online courses. Dabo needed a kicker. He called him up. Jonathan Welts. There he is.
So what happened to the original kicker?
Whatever, he got hurt or whatever it is.
Okay.
But so Jonathan shows up to kick a 29-yard field goal that would have, probably kept it from going to overtime. And yeah, wide right.
So FSU, they don't really have much left on their schedule as far as like big games, except for Miami in week 11.
Yeah, that's a big game for them, for sure. Where's that game at? Do you know?
In Miami.
Well, the ACC we're going to learn a lot about the ACC in the next couple of weeks because they're getting into some conference play and some of the good teams are going to start playing each other and we're going to see who the dogs are, who's going to come out of that.
Yeah, and possibly we may see a FSU Clemson rematch for the ACC championship if things fall right, but I don't know. I think Clemson's going to lose a couple more games.
Yeah, the way it looks, they don't have any explosion on offense. Their receivers are they're number 2s. They're not number 1s. They're number 2s. They try to run the ball. Florida State held them to 146 yards on the ground. That's not great, but, they held them down. They kept them in check. They stayed in the ball game on the road, hostile environment, 2 weeks in a row, right? After the hurricane mess from the week before up at Chestnut Hill, D.C., so good for Florida State. They get the win and move on. Dabo probably going to find him another kicker sitting on the couch somewhere. But, Klubnik, he's got to step up. Play calling's got to change.
Well, Florida State's got a week off next week, right?
Yes, they have a week off.
So they come back, Syracuse, Wake Forest, Miami. And Georgia Tech is coming on like gangbusters. Don't overlook Georgia Tech. And then they got North Carolina. So Clemson's got a tough road ahead. Like, for them to make it into that ACC championship game is going to be tough.
Yeah, not going to happen.
I don't think so either.
So this is the first time since 2014 since Clemson has not been in the AP top 25.
Wow. That's impressive.
Holy smokes. Yeah, I had them in the making it to the college football playoffs. So.
Oh, yeah. We picked them early. I did. I had them. I thought it was going to be a comeback year.
We talked about it last week. We talked about it 2 weeks ago. We talked about it when Duke beat them. Dabo is coaching his way not only out of the Alabama job. I don't even think they care about that anymore. You won't hear that I don't think you'll hear about that anymore, but he's about to coach his way out of Clemson.
Well,
yeah, you're right about
you know
that.
who Alabama really wants?
Prime time.
Well, no. You know who they really want?
Kirby. They're not getting Kirby.
Right, but they're not getting him.
Kirby.
They're not getting
They
him.
ain't got enough money in the world to get Kirby.
Kirby is home. He's home. Daddy has come home.
Yeah. He's not. He definitely isn't going to take his talents to Tuscaloosa.
No. So while we're talking about the SEC, let's move on from FSU Clemson and talk about I'm going to ask you, Jeff, because this is what I wrote down on my recap game for the Auburn. What the fuck is Auburn's identity,
Dude?
Like what is their? What are they doing?
They can run a little bit. They'd have no passing game, but
Well, our outstanding running back, Damari Alston, he's gone now. He's hurt. Tore his shoulder up. They don't know
this
how long.
last game.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because they were second in the rushing, second in the SEC in rushing
Yeah,
offense.
we got Jarquez Hunter, but we're not good.
But you're dead last in passing offense. So.
Terrible. They threw for 56 yards last week against Texas A&M.
I thought they were going to walk into that game with some confidence and get a little physical. And
I mean, they're so bad that the coaches on the other team are almost tackling them.
Hey, that was head coach Jimbo, baby. Jimbo out there with his play sheet and all.
Daddy Jimbo spanked Hugh Freeze and sent him back home.
Yeah, Hugh's pulling his hair out, and well, look, I'm gonna save most of this for when we do the Dog Show, our sister podcast. But
Yeah, you got a strong recruiting class. With Georgia and Auburn are the top two leaders right now in the SEC and 4- and 5-star recruits. So
I mean, Hugh can recruit, man.
seems like he's recruiting.
Look, that's
so.
why he's not calling plays right now. That's why
Yeah.
he gave up the play calling to focus more on the whole program, to focus more on the recruiting side, and it's killing him, man.
What's
killing him.
Hugh's salary cap over there? Do you know?
It's unlimited. Bobby Lauder and Yellowwood Man, Jimmy Rain.
Pockets are deep.
Mr. Yellowwoods at Auburn.
Jimmy Rain, yeah.
Oh, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he got a whole bunch of that money, enough to choke 2 or 3 mules.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
It was not a good day. Let's just put it like that.
Well, let's talk about Connor Wegman going down real quick. He's done. He's done for the year. He was 8 of 14 with 70 yards, averaging 5 yards a pass. And, you know, people like to get worried when your starting QB goes down. But Max Johnson,
Yep.
son of Brad Johnson, brother's the tight end, comes in, goes 7 for 11 for 123 yards, averages 11.2 yards a play, and throws 2 touchdowns. Outplays anything Connor Wegman has done all year, and probably is going to be one of those situations where the starting QB goes down, and unfortunately, I hate to see him hurt, but it's going to be the best thing that could have happened to Jimbo.
Well, a lot of people don't even remember 2 years ago he started for LSU for the whole year, 2021.
He's been there for what?
He's a sophomore.
Or his 3rd year then. Or, well, the COVID year don't count.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was texting with a buddy earlier because I got the, the tweet or X or whatever you want to call it about Wegman being gone. A friend of mine makes some numbers, and I asked him, I said, what does that do to your power rating? And he said, 1.5. Lower him 1.5. Simply because Wegman can push the ball down the field. They don't feel like Max Johnson can.
Wegman's a little bit more mobile than Johnson.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. But he says 1.5 to his power rating. Give or take, people do different things, but that's about the extent of it. Is Max Johnson going to be capable? Absolutely. Bobby Petrino can make him better.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, look, he come in, say he was 7 for 11. He threw for 123 yards. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah.
I mean,
11 yards a pass.
11
That's
yards,
strong.
yeah, average 11 yards a pass. So I think, look, y'all know I was high on Texas A&M, so I guess I can kiss that one goodbye too. But we'll see, man. We'll see, because the West is,
the West is garbage, man. They could still come out on top there.
The West is garbage.
God
damn, how about the East?
The SEC West really is the wild, wild West, though, right now. Anybody,
the East isn't
The East is a dumpster fire.
Anybody can. Well, the East is. I mean, there's one leader in the East.
There's one leader in the SEC,
and there's 2 or 3 teams in the East that are going to be vying for that number 2 spot. But in the West, there are no leaders. There's nobody. We don't have a clue how the chips are going to fall.
Yeah, and listen, if LSU had a defense, you'd be looking at numbers not as good as what they did in 19 with Burrow, but you would be looking at some hellified numbers and some hellified scores and some high-scoring games if LSU had a defense. Everybody forgets how good that defense was back in 2019. They would turn people over. Joe Burrow, I should have looked this up. I can only imagine what the time of possession was in the LSU games back then. They dominated the time of possession. They were scoring 48 points a game.
Yeah.
But LSU doesn't have a defense this year. Well, their front seven is good. Their back is terrible.
Terrible. Well, then it's a passing league now. You got to do it. I mean, you got to be able to. You got to be able to have DBs and cornerbacks, and you got to be deep with them. You got to be able to play a nickel, the whole game.
The whole game, yeah.
So the other thing I want to mention real quick is we're talking about A&M and what's going to happen with a new quarterback, but they got Arkansas this week, and I just want to mention real quick that Arkansas is 2-2.
Yep.
But guys, Arkansas lost to a BYU team who was playing fantastic, 38-31, and lost last week to LSU 34-31. And they're a physical, tough team. Arkansas's not to be laid down on. So
their quarterback KJ, he's having a pretty good season, even though the results have not shown that.
Right.
Well, they've been without Rocket Sanders.
He's back.
He's coming back.
He's coming back this week. So I think that their two losses, only one of their losses was in conference. So they're another team. If they turn things around, if they win this game this week, they're in the talk with anybody else in that Wild West.
Well, so the SEC West right now, Alabama, Texas A&M, and LSU all have a non-conference loss.
Yeah.
Didn't see that one coming.
Right. All right, what's next? You want to talk about some prime time?
Let's talk about Coach Prime and his Colorado Buffs.
Reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We called it.
Dan Lanning said it. Dan Lanning said, "We're here for wins, not clicks."
Yeah.
Woo. Ruffle a few feathers there.
I'll tell you what, though. I think everybody if there was still a Pac-12 after this year, is a little bit timid, though. They're scared of what Deion's bringing in there. I mean, he's getting recruits. He's putting it out there. I think he said something after the game to the effect of, "You better get me now if you're going to get me," which I believe in. I mean, I think he's showing off. He's going to get some big recruits in there, and I think he's going to turn the program around after a couple of years. I mean, hell, he's already turned the program around. They had 1 win last year. We've already got 3 this year, so I think he's doing
quadruple ticket prices.
Yep, quadrupled ticket prices.
Selling games out.
They'll probably be the favorite in the Big 12 next year.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to find some NIL money.
There's
obviously,
no Texas, no Oklahoma.
Look, if you're a defensive backer or safety, why wouldn't you want to go learn from one of the best, if not the best of all time at that position, right? The guy can print money. He was a hell of a player.
I mean, he's legit. He's everything you want in a player. And so you take all that knowledge, and no wonder Travis Hunter wanted to go work with him.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, would you skip going to an Alabama or a Georgia?
It depends on the position.
For an experiment?
I would not go there if I played any other position. But if I was a cornerback, if I was a 4 or 5 star cornerback, and I wanted to make sure that, and I'm concerned about me. I don't care about the team a whole lot. Let's be honest with you. It's a me world right now. You got the NIL deals. You're getting paid to go to school. You're getting paid for the endorsements. And what do they got to put 2 years in? 2-3 years in to go off into the NFL. So if I want to make the best of my time as a cornerback, I would definitely go play under, because Deion also knows everybody in the NFL.
Yep.
And if you go work hard and you put in your time and you put in all your energy and focus on making him understand that you're there for him and for football, he's going to pick up that phone. He's going to make that one phone call to, it doesn't matter if it's Bill Belichick while they're filming an Aflac commercial, or if it's, on the West Coast. It doesn't matter who it is. If Deion Sanders calls a head coach in the NFL right now and says, this guy has got the potential to be the best cornerback in the NFL, then he's done. That guy's going.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, obviously, the SEC is down this year, but if you're going to play for Deion, you're going to play against lesser talent, generally speaking, in the Pac-12, and what are they going to, the Big 10?
Big 12.
Big 12. So, I mean, you're going to pad your stats. You're going to effectively be playing against worse, air quotes, teams, and you're going to have a chance to go and get more interceptions, this and that and the other. So, any way you can pad your stats and make yourself more NFL visible and beautiful, the better off you're going to be.
Well, what that Oregon defense did last week, though, was not to be ignored whatsoever. They held Shador to 159 yards and 1 touchdown. He gave him a QBR of 28.2.
That's a guy averaging almost 400 yards a game.
Look, they held Colorado to 199 yards total offense. They can't run the ball. Colorado can't run the ball anyway. Everybody knows that. And what everybody's been speculating about, how bad is that offensive line? Well, it reared its ugly head.
Yeah.
And now they're about to have to go take some USC, whose defensive line is better than Oregon's defensive line. So he's got problems. And yes, he went to the portal, but that's just not something.
But that Oregon defense is good.
Oh,
up
they're
front.
good.
They're
Yeah,
good
they're
in the
good. They're
secondary.
solid.
They're
Dan
solid.
Lanning, that's
he
his
is a
baby.
defensive guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, hell, they gave up 7 sacks versus Oregon. So
Real quick, just to touch on what we were talking about, though, there was some news this week and from the press conference. I saw some bits of it today where Cormani McClain, the 5-star cornerback that went to Colorado, they said they asked Coach Dion, Coach Prime, so what's he got to do to get on the field? Why isn't he playing? And he said he's got to study.
Yeah.
He's got to understand the schemes. He's got to get in the film room. We keep logs. All these coaches keep a log, and they report to me on how much time these kids are in the film room. Basically, he shot this kid right in the foot today. Like, he ruined any chance he's got of going anywhere in the portal and becoming something or being a draft choice after next year, unless the kid turns it around and Dion comes out and says, hey, ever since I said that, he's done what he's had to do. But this kid's a 5-star athlete, goes to Colorado, is playing for Dion, thinks he's going to be the next best thing, and he's not even touching the field.
Yeah.
Apparently, Manziel, back in the day, they must not have logged how long they were watching.
Oh yeah, yeah, they weren't logging it back then, back with old Manziel.
Well, you see what happens when you don't study in the film room, right?
Bo Nix, 3 passing touchdowns, 276 yards in the air. He had a rushing touchdown.
Good Bo.
Good Bo at home. And when Bo's at home, he's good Bo. I've been telling y'all.
But I mean,
he's
that
good
whole
Bo.
team. Listen, people are still hesitant to move that team up on the list, but Oregon's a top 5 team right now to me. They have been blowing people out.
Now the Ducks have won 30 straight games at home and scored 40 or more points. They lead the Pac-12 in rushing touchdowns, which is something that we don't talk about enough because the Pac-12
Outside of
Utah, you don't even think about running the ball.
right?
Oregon's a force to be reckoned with. Colorado, they still got some tweaking they got to do, and they got the meat of their schedule coming up. So
Yeah. Well, I think they're about to take a few hits in a row, and just going to see how they bounce back. Yeah. I mean, honestly, what this game really showed, the way Oregon dominated them in all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams. Yeah. They dominated the line of scrimmage. They dominated the skill positions. The way Oregon just absolutely manhandled them like they were a middle school girls team just goes to show you that actually all those, Colorado State, terrible. Nebraska, terrible. TCU, terrible. Like, it really, what it did to me is reflect on those first 3 games and how bad those teams actually are.
I mean, I kind of want to give TCU maybe a little bit of the pass. First game, had no idea what kind of offense Colorado was going to bring in there.
Nothing to study.
Nothing to look at on film other than what Sean Lewis did up there at Kent State. So maybe, listen, we'll get to TCU in a little while, but maybe we give them a little bit of pass. Plus, TCU did lose several players to the NFL. They lost their number 1 receiver. They lost their number 1 defensive end.
Quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback's gone, so...
Well, I mean, they got a great coach, and I think they're going to get the
Sonny
program
Dykes
back.
is a great coach.
Sonny Dykes is great, and I think they're going to get back on track. And they've been playing well since that game, but they've got to show me something on defense against a solid team before I'm going to buy in at all.
Yeah, well,
they got to hold a good team to 30 points.
Yeah.
Show me that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So until that happens, there's not much can be said for them in my eyes. So
I agree.
All right, let's move on. Ole Miss, Alabama. So we had a baseball score at halftime.
Yeah.
It was 7-6 with Ole Miss winning at halftime.
We talked about this last week. I think a couple of people might have liked Ole Miss in the point. Tried to warn. I just had that feeling that was that typical Saban game. And Lane running his mouth, talking about who's calling the defensive plays. Listen, Ole Miss is Fugazi. I knew it when they played Tulane.
Fugazi.
I'm telling you, man, they are. When they played Tulane and they struggled with the backup quarterback that day. Jackson Dart, if you make him one-dimensional, he can be beat. Jalen Milroe, 17 for 21, 225, touchdown. He did throw a pick. He rushed for another 28 yards. He didn't get a touchdown on that, but you didn't hear a word about Tyler Buckner. You didn't hear a word about Ty Simpson and Nick Saban. They still have a good defense, a really good defense.
So here's the two takeaways for me from this game. One is Nick Saban is still the king of adjustments.
Yes.
Like they weren't playing great.
At halftime, they were playing.
I mean, they were playing. The defense obviously they don't give up. They don't give them a touchdown, but
right.
they still go in and say, all right, well, we know that we're not going to score 5 touchdowns in this next half.
Right.
So we have to figure out how to stop them completely. So he makes a few adjustments. Lane Kiffin makes zero adjustments and goes out there and does the same thing he was doing. The other thing that I noticed a lot is because I was looking at the fact that Alabama had 45 rushing plays to 21 pass plays. I was thinking, well, that seems kind of lopsided. I don't think that they were that unconfident in Milroe. But then I noticed, all right, so Milroe has 16 carries for 28 yards.
Yeah, 16, yeah.
How many of those were actually called passing plays?
Oh, well, probably
15 of them. Right. So the reality is they probably had about 30 to 30. It was probably close. It was probably 50-50, and Milroe pulled the ball down and took off running.
Yeah.
Right.
So it tells me when he's got 16 rushes for 28 yards that he's having to pull it down and scramble to get a couple of yards because he's still having a problem going through his reads. He's still having a problem making decisions. He can't get the ball out on a timing route, so he's not going to be able to complete a pass if the receiver's covered.
Yep.
Right. And one of those rushes was for 20 yards. So technically he had 15 rushes for 8 yards.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So
facts. So
yeah, he's a work in progress.
But because he's an athlete.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're kind of playing like that old school like peewee football. Honestly, hey, let's take our best athlete and put him at quarterback and figure out what the fuck we're going to do.
But that goes back to my point about Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Their defense is not. It's not what everybody thought. We'll find out this week. They get LSU.
Well, Spencer Sanders was 1 for 1 yard.
Yeah. Jackson Dart, though, 244 yards. He really didn't look good. I mean, he really didn't. He rushed for a touchdown, but I mean, he's just, if you make him one-dimensional, you pretty much take away everything. Now, Quinshawn Junkins, they did get him back here and again. He's still not 100%. He's questionable for this week against LSU. He hadn't been healthy all year long, but their defense is suspect. And we'll see what happens this weekend.
All right, so we'll see what happens there. What you got? Did anybody watch? I was at the beach with the family, but I was able to catch highlights. But I was able to sit down that night and watch the entire Ohio State Notre Dame game.
Yeah, we were back and forth between UAB and Georgia, and then we went to Brogan's.
Yeah, so we were down in St. Simon's Island, went to a little spot called Brogan's, had 7 TVs in the restaurant, and every single one of them was on the UGA-UAB game.
But it did get over enough for us to see the end of the game.
Yeah.
All right.
We're sitting there watching the Notre Dame OSU game and what other game did we have on? We were watching them on our phones on the table there.
So this game here, in the first half between both teams, literally had 3 points scored.
I watched it from start to finish. So I'm going to tell you what, even though the stats are not that impressive for either quarterback, I'm going to tell you now, these guys, I didn't think that either one of them played bad. The teams were on fire, man. These teams were so hyped for this game. It was physical. The defensive backs, tight coverage, tight windows to throw through. The linebackers were hitting. They were running the ball. I mean, if in today's day and age, we're so kind of spoiled by the track meet games and the high scores and the back and forth and the excitement. But this felt like I was watching
Alabama LSU,
a 1996 Alabama game that ended 13-10, where they were just beating the dog shit out of each other.
Kyle McCord's first big game. I mean, he hadn't had much. No, he hadn't had nothing. So Sam Hartman, 175 yards, 1 touchdown. Maybe there was a couple of throws so on, but it's just at the end of the game, instead of putting the ball in his hands, they try to run the ball. I
mean, Sam Hartman has the prettiest hair I've ever seen. Yeah. I mean, that guy with that hair and that beard mustache. I mean, the only thing he was really missing was one of those string-laced tank tops. Those real stringy tank tops and like a fucking Camaro with some Belle DeVoe playing and some T-tops. I mean, he was like...
He's got kind of a Ken and Barbie look.
I mean, my 16-year-old daughter stopped by the TV and looked over and was like, "Who is that?"
Oh, well, there you go.
That's Magnum PI, honey.
Yeah,
Keep
there
walking.
you go. But McCord puts together a 65-yard drive to get them down there at the end of the game, and Notre Dame decides to play 10 players on defense.
All right.
On the last 2 plays.
Twice.
So let's talk about this before we even get to, because like I told you, I watched this game, and at one point they're up 14-10.
Mm-hmm.
Safety DJ Brown comes across the middle. They're on about the 40-yard line of Notre Dame. He throws the ball over the middle. DJ Brown goes right through his hands. Mm-hmm. All he's got to do is catch it and fall down, and they win 14-10. There's no overtime. There's no.
But that's why he plays defense, right?
Probably, yeah. That's what we say.
I couldn't believe it either when I saw the replay of it. I'm like,
when he dropped that ball, and it showed, because at first in fast speed it looked like it was a little high, like it would have been a real hard play. But then when they slowed it down and showed it slow motion, I mean, he didn't have to jump that hard, put his hands up. It went right through the center of his hands, and I know that as a guy that's competitive and on the field, when you make a mistake like that, man, it just haunts you, man. You can't sleep at night, especially going and lose that game. I bet you that guy was beating himself up all night. Like, all I had to do was catch the damn ball. Yeah. You know? So
can you imagine what the coaches meeting was like, either after the game or the next morning? 2 plays in a row. And there was a point in time right before all that happened where Freeman, Notre Dame's head coach, Marcus Freeman, he burned a timeout for no reason at all. If he would have had that timeout in his pocket, that probably wouldn't have happened at the end of the game. So, there's a lot of things in the play calling. They keep talking. I've heard several folks talk about why was Notre Dame so conservative? Why they didn't just go? They tried to run the ball. They 39 carries for 176 yards. Time of possession. At some point in time, you got to open it up. I mean, look, Notre Dame's defense. They held Marvin Harrison Jr. 3 catches, 32 yards.
Yeah, they hurt him too.
Yeah, they hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, not it was unintentional. Like he was blocking, and somebody got hit into the back of his leg, rolled his ankle. But once that happened, though, he pretty much, I think, caught maybe 1 ball after that. Like he was insignificant. But Marcus Freeman is a young coach. He's a players coach. Players love him. He's
great recruiter.
Great recruiter. 2 years in now. I think that he's going to have a lot of success at Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a big learning experience for him. But basically, he just got. Marcus Freeman got beat at the end of this game, not Notre Dame.
Right. Yeah, he got beat. He's this is only his second year, so you're gonna go through these. But that's a big loss for them.
It happened with Kirby. Kirby in Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
When Kirby got Nick Saban, those first couple of years, Kirby got beat by Nick Saban. Not Georgia by Alabama.
Right.
Kirby got beat by Nick Saban.
Yeah, I can see how it happens on the first play, but how are the guys up in the box not, hey, we had 10 players on the field last play. Make sure we get 11 out there this next one.
That's what I'm saying.
Shit, usually the announcers notice it, and then that signals the coaches. Shit.
That coaches meeting had to be hell.
Yeah, and then we finished up the game with Ryan Day's crybaby interview.
Lou Holtz.
Trying to fight Lou Holtz.
Now, you know what? I think that was a cry for Ryan Day to get his team fired up, because his whole team had heard Lou Holtz say those things about them. And Lou Holtz is a Notre Dame guy through and through. He bleeds 100%. Gold and green and cookies made in little trees. And
the Keebler guy. There you go.
He does look a little Keebler elfish.
And so I really think that had less to do with Lou Holtz and Notre Dame and more to do with Ryan Day getting his fan base and his team and his people on the bandwagon and saying, hey, that we're not who he says we are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Ohio State has any trouble getting people on the bandwagon.
Well, they got the largest fan base in the country. But aside from that, what I take away from this game is that both of these teams are legit football teams. I don't think that Notre Dame deserves to lose any ranking because of this football game. So, in fact, I think they should have won the game.
So the Big Ten East right now is setting up where we could end up with a 3-way tie with 3 one-loss teams.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to get into conference play. And
Michigan's going to win out.
Well, they play both Penn State and Ohio State. So.
Let me rephrase that. If Michigan doesn't win out, from what I've seen so far, I think it's going to be because of Penn State.
Penn State, yeah.
And if Penn State beats Michigan, then they're going to beat Ohio State. That's my take.
Yeah, Penn
on
State hadn't been tested at all. Neither has Michigan.
Well, that's what I said from what I've
said.
seen, but we don't know yet. Let me ask you this: takeaways right now. If Ohio State and Notre Dame suited up this Saturday and went at it again, who wins? If it's a pick'em game and you got to bet $100 on it, who you betting on?
I mean, OSU beat them at Notre Dame, so
Well, I bet on Ohio
I'm still
State
taking
last week
OSU,
anyway,
I guess.
so.
Yeah.
I think Notre Dame is good. Okay, but again, man, Marcus Freeman's only his second year. Listen, coaches are big in this stuff.
Yeah. They are. These are kids.
These are
so the
kids.
coaches are making
Yeah.
it. I think if they suit up again, I think Notre Dame beats them. I think Marcus Freeman goes back to that game, figures out a few things. I think he goes into the shoe, and I think he puts it on them.
They would have to open up the play calling though.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to push the ball down the field at some point in time. Your
Well, I think
defense can only stand up for so long.
I think they know they can though now.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe
it could
not,
make a
but
difference.
I just. So y'all are pretty much Ohio State if they played again. You think?
Man, I don't like
Yeah,
Ohio
I mean, I
State.
think it's a coin
I mean,
flip.
I hate Ohio State, but
Yeah, I mean, me too.
I
I think
hate
it's a
Notre
coin
Dame, too.
flip.
I don't like Notre
Yeah, I
Dame
hate
either.
Notre
But
Dame, too.
I love. This is the only time I ever root for Notre Dame. Is when they play Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I think these two teams are pretty evenly matched. OSU beat them at Notre Dame, although, again, Freeman made some mistakes. They only had 10 players on the field, so forth, so on. But coming into the Notre Dame territory and beating them was enough for me to say they'd win again.
What happens if we end up in the East with 3 one-loss teams and 2 of them don't make it to the Big Ten championship? Do they still have the ability to make it into the playoffs, you think?
It really depends on what the Pac-12 does, in my opinion. If there's 2 from the Pac-12, then I don't think so. Now, what I'm thinking is Texas wins the Big 12 with only 1 loss. They're in. Whoever wins the Pac-12 is definitely in, unless every team over there has 2 or 3 losses, which could happen. That's what I'm saying. It really depends on what happens in the Pac-12 as far as if Penn State, Michigan, or Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan get in. Yeah, because Florida State, or Miami, we ain't even talking about Miami, but hey, Miami's putting up some serious numbers.
We're not yet. We're gonna get on them though.
So I think you'll have one of those teams out of the ACC. I think you'll have Texas out of the Big 12.
Who do you think's gonna beat Texas?
Well, dude, they're good for something.
I mean,
They play Oklahoma next week.
they got Kansas, then Oklahoma.
Yep.
So, but that's their toughest 2 next. Their next 2 games are their toughest. If they get by these next 2 games, they're going to run the table and they're in.
They should, right?
They should. Yeah. If they don't, then they definitely don't deserve to be in. Before we move on to the upcoming week, I got a few mentions I just want to run through real quick. We're going to talk about them dogs on our Dog Show podcast, and we'll get to them in a minute, but they're just still not passing the eye test for me. I want to mention Georgia Tech thumps Wake Forest 30-16 as a 3.5 point underdog. Of course, Michigan and Texas roll. USC goes out and does what they do by scoring a bunch of points, but they gave up 28 points to the dumpster fire called Arizona State.
Yep.
Which makes the game they got coming up this weekend really suspect. What's going to happen there? Penn State continues to roll. They just absolutely deflate Iowa.
Hey, I heard a stat today. Iowa has a total of 35 pass attempts this year.
Well, the Iowa coach came out and said before this game, we have a quarterback and we can score now.
Yeah, well, Cade McNamara was running his mouth too.
But he's hurt now. He's still hurt. But yeah, I know he was running. I heard him say all that stuff.
Y'all keep doubting this.
but
Y'all
yeah,
keep doubting this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they are now. They just got blanked.
Yeah.
But huge Pac-12 game, Washington State. We didn't mention that. Washington
Underdogs.
State, the underdog. I called that game. I called them to cover and get the win. Washington State beats Oregon State. They were 3-point dogs. Cameron Ward threw for 400.
Incarnate word, baby.
Hey, incarnate word.
Incarnate word.
Incarnate word. He threw for 404 yards. And the real DJ Ukulele,
Yes, he did what he does.
17 for 34 for 198 yards at a 50% completion rate.
Yeah.
So just a couple things I want to jump on. The ACC, North Carolina, Duke, Miami, they are all dropping the hammers. They all win big. They all stay undefeated. And then in the SEC, we got LSU, who struggled with Arkansas. But like I said, we think Arkansas is going to get on a roll. Side note, Will Rogers threw for 487 yards.
So I had to look it up. Incarnate embodied in the flesh in human form. So there you go, boys. There's your knowledge for the week. The Word embodied in flesh.
Could you imagine, though, throwing for 487 yards? Could you imagine, though, throwing for 487 yards and losing your football game?
They don't have a defense, man.
They got no defense. Somehow they scored enough. Spencer Rattler,
Yes, that's why.
He
Imagine
played,
if he wasn't there.
Hey, he played well. I mean, he played well, 37-30. South Carolina comes out on top. So that I just wanted to. I know we weren't going into depth on those games, but I wanted to mention a few things on those.
All right, so let's jump right into the big game preview for Week 5 coming up. I do want to mention we've got 7 SEC games that are all in conference games this week. So start to see how some of the different teams react when they start playing their own level of competition.
Yes, indeed. And starting it right off with the Colorado USC matchup.
Hey, look, this game is 12 o'clock kickoff Eastern time, 10 o'clock Mountain time, 9 o'clock for Southern Cal. Because they're on, their body. I'm sure I heard they already flown out there and they're practicing at 9 o'clock in the morning and all that. Plus, they're going to altitude. So USC opened at 27.5, got bet down to 21 now. Your total sitting at 73.5.
I'd have took them at 27.5. I took Colorado in a second.
Yeah, that's how fast it got bet down.
Well, because they gave up 1 million points to Arizona State.
This feels like a shootout waiting to happen.
But USC, they score 55 points a game. Colorado, they score 32 points a game. I really think, though, the number here, you got to remember we got the running clock now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that matters. I think the time of this game matters.
Yeah,
I don't know that it matters a touchdown to the spread, but I think it matters.
Hey, listen, it's going to end 88-54.
There's no way I'm taking the under. I can tell you that right now. No way I'm taking the under. A lot of people thought this game was going to open at like 82 or 83. I mean, that's how high some of those guys were thinking this. But neither one of them can stop anybody.
No.
Arizona State just put 28 on Southern Cal. Arizona State. They are terrible.
They're awful.
Yeah.
Well, Shadur's going to have to pick up where he left off 2 games ago. He's 11 touchdowns, 1,400 yards. Meanwhile, your defending Heisman Trophy winner and favorite, Caleb Williams, he's thrown for 1,200 yards already. He's 15 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. And he's coming off a game where he just kind of stumbled through and still had over 300 yards pass.
Hey, listen, I want to really clarify how bad Arizona State is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Arizona State so far this year, they scored 24 points against Southern Utah. Mm-hmm. That's a powerhouse.
Now look, that was a Dust Bowl though. Do you remember that? That was a Thursday night college football open. The game got delayed for hours.
Yes.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 hours or something ridiculous. Yeah.
So I kind of gave them a pass on that, but guess what? I can't give them a pass for everything else.
Well, here's the thing. They only could score 15 on Oklahoma State, who's not having a good year. They're struggling. They got blanked against Fresno State.
Fresno State's pretty good this year, though.
They were pretty good last year.
And then they came out and put up 28 against USC, who's in the top 10. So USC's defense is god-awful. There's no way around it.
No.
So I heard something Travis Hunter said he's playing. He's not going to listen to Dion. Have you heard any rumors or
no?
rumblings about
Last
that?
I heard from Travis Hunter, he was wearing a giraffe suit on TikTok or whatever. the hell.
I saw that.
They released a text message back and forth between the two of them, and he said, after last week, I've got to play. I've got to be on the field. And Dion said, your future is more important than right now,
Okay,
blah,
gotcha,
blah, blah.
I mean, he would be a target, dude. They
Yeah.
would
yeah.
totally. He thought he got hit hard by Colorado State kid.
Kudos to Travis Hunter. When everybody was down on that Colorado State kid who was just playing hard-nosed football, Travis Hunter said, this is football. He did what he's supposed to do. These things are going to happen. Move on.
Yeah, that was good.
We
good
would
for
probably
him.
have another Booby Miles situation if Travis Hunter tried to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Y'all remember Booby Miles in Friday Night Lights where he had a busted up knee and he insisted on playing?
No.
And he went to cut and his knee goes out and just gets smashed.
Oh, my God.
I figure you'd be a football guy.
I mean,
and you'd be able to
listen.
quote every line from
I
that
watched
movie.
Friday Night Lights 100 times when it came out in 2002. But I also spent 7.5 years getting a PE degree, so I don't remember things very long.
But you guys got another blowout. I'm assuming that's what I'm taking. USC. I think it's going to be a dogfight, but
I'm going over.
Colorado has no defense.
No,
They
and they
both
can't
got
run
an
the ball.
offense.
So you know what? Their leading rusher has 28 carries, Dylan Edwards, for 157 yards. They cannot run the ball. They have no offensive line to block to run the ball. So Shador's going to be on the run again. You're going to see, again, 10 o'clock in the morning now, guys. Let's not forget. 10 o'clock in the morning. That's a whole lot different than playing at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, whatever. So
Yep.
I'll be interested to see what the difference is in scoring between the first half and the second half.
Yeah.
See if they got any pep left in their step.
I think the bet for me on this, more than just the total, is I think I'm going to take USC in the first half. I think the line's 14.5, something like that. I'm gonna look at that, and we'll see what happens.
See if it changes and take Colorado on the points in the second half. Because Colorado's going to be used to that weather, to that air. They're going to have a little more gas in the tank.
Well, Colorado's going to be 3-2 after this loss, but then they got 2 wins in a row versus Arizona State and Stanford coming right up. So show me that money.
Oh, my God. Fuck me. All right,
moving on.
SEC. Let's talk about some SEC football and the surprise team of the SEC East. Them Florida Gators coming back for revenge on that revenge tour against Kentucky. What do you got, Jeffrey?
You know what, though? They are not favored in this game. So
it opened Kentucky -3 and 47. Immediately got bet down. Before I could even get my hands on the phone on the app, immediately went to Florida +1, and then the total went all the way down to 43.5. And that was really, I wanted to put this on here and talk about it because we got to find out, is Kentucky, are they good?
We're going to find out.
Are
Because
they
Florida's
good?
decent.
Florida's defense is for real.
They are.
I think we know that. Graham Mertz is playing way better than anybody thought he was going to play.
He's way better than you thought he was.
Oh, way better. Yeah, especially better than I
Oh,
thought.
yeah,
You-
100%.
I done threw him under the bus and ran him over 3 or 4 times.
You were ready to stomp.
But, I mean, look, on the year, he's thrown for 950 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only has 1 pick, and he played really, really good against Tennessee.
and he's running when he has
He's
to.
running when he has to, yeah.
Right.
how
So,
about that catch from, was it Pearson?
oh, my God. Catch of the week.
Oh,
Catch,
yeah.
Pearsall, yeah.
Maybe catch of the decade.
Probably.
Like,
Oh,
we were
yeah.
talking, comparing it to Odell Beckham's.
Yeah, that's better than Odell Beckham Jr.'s
Not
catch,
only
I
was
thought.
it better, the fact that he held on to it with 2 defenders hitting him. He got pancaked immediately after the catch before he was even planted on the ground. Then the ball, if you watch it, I've watched it like 15 times. He gets pancaked. He hits the ground, immediately stands up. The ball never moved from his hand. He never actually wrapped it up or put both hands or tucked it. He just caught it, held it against him, and stood right up. His hand never moved off that ball. It was one of the most impressive things I've seen.
Yep. And then, this Devin Leary, the transfer out of NC State, Kentucky's quarterback, he's not doing anything except looking bad. I mean, he's 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's immobile. He cannot run, and that's going to be a problem with that defensive front that Florida poses. Kentucky's offensive line. Now, look, they block good for the running back. Ray Davis, transfer out of Vandy, 314 yards and 5 touchdowns. But the problem with Leary is he can't move. He can't get out of the pocket. He's not going to run. There's no threat on that. So, this might be one of them old school, bring the tight ends in. Let's see if we can control them. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I think Kentucky pulls it out at the end.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
You got Kentucky at home.
I thought you were going to talk about ETN running all over them and controlling the clock for Florida, and they're going to pull it out in the end. But
This might be the time you see Graham Mertz. Now, he's finally going to play a defense that is actual capable. Now, look, we all know Tennessee has big-time problems on the defensive front, right? Utah controlled him pretty good. Utah held him to 11 points, okay? That's the best defense he's probably going to play till he plays Georgia, right?
I would agree, yeah.
So in Charlotte, now look, Charlotte was driving the ball. Once Charlotte changed quarterbacks, they put in this kid that can actually run a little bit. They started moving the ball down the field on Florida in the second half of that ball game last week. So there's some questions about that too. We'll see.
Well, Napier's got to make that adjustment. When they change quarterbacks and the quarterback gets mobile, you got to change a few things.
Well, that goes back to the Austin Armstrong, the 27-year-old defensive coordinator they got out of Southern Miss. He's learning on the go too. Now he's done exceptional. I mean, Florida's defense has been really good this year.
Yeah.
Considering who they played. they called a Joe Milton that we all kind of talked about how we thought that was going to go, and
Well, it went exactly how I expected it to.
exactly. So, but anyway, it was an interesting game. It's an early game. We'll see what happens.
It's not 10 a.m. early.
Well,
but
here's what I want to say. Kentucky's getting a lot of credit to be 4-0 against Ball State,
Oh, yeah.
Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and Vanderbilt.
No doubt. No doubt. They have not been tested at all.
Not only have they not been tested, they really haven't played anybody with a legitimate football team.
Yep. You're right.
I mean,
you're right.
Georgia Southern beat Ball State worse than Kentucky did.
Worse than Georgia did.
Worse than Georgia did too, but like I said,
Forget about that. Go Dogs.
there go Dogs. But I'm just not. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying into the Kentucky hype. I'm staying on my Florida train a little bit. I still think they're the surprise team in the East. I think this game is going to separate whoever wins this game, and I'm taking Florida to win, but. For two reasons mainly, right? Florida, they're coming off a game against Charlotte. So they had kind of a lay down last week. They didn't really have to get up to that game. 2 of their first 4 games have been against top 20, top 10 teams, Utah and Tennessee. And so Florida has already been in the trenches with legitimate teams, and Kentucky has not. I think just on schedule alone, from what they've had to see this year, Florida is so much more prepared for this game than Kentucky's going to be.
And I did hear that, I believe it's their offensive guard for Florida, has been practicing this week, and he should be back. So that'll be a huge boost for that offensive line.
And ETN, not that he needs an additional better blocker, but he's a special running back. He's legit. So I got Florida dominating time of possession. I got them dominating on defense. And I actually don't think it's going to be that close of a game. I think they're going to win by double digits. I think they're going to win by 10, 12, 13 points.
Does it stay under? If they win by that much, it definitely stays under.
I think it's going to stay under either way because I don't think Kentucky's going to be able to score against them. Not much. I think it's going to be it's actually going to be real close. I'd say 28-17 or 28-21, somewhere in there. I think it's going to be so if it goes 28-21, then it goes over. But
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Notre Dame at Duke, and guess what, guys? ESPN Game Day is making their maiden voyage over to Raleigh to watch the Dukies, baby, for the first time.
I like Duke.
This line opened Notre Dame -4 and 54.5. Got bet up Notre Dame -5.5, and the total went down 2 points to 52.5.
All right, so here's my question for you, because me and you have had this conversation multiple times. How does Notre Dame get up for this game after an Ohio State overtime, should have won, huge, emotionally draining, physical game at home, and now you got to come in and play Duke and try to get up for that same amount of energy?
There's got to be a letdown. There just has to be.
Yeah.
There just has to be.
They're going to get caught if they don't get up for sure.
Well, here's what I think is going to fall in Duke's or Notre Dame's favor is that the majority of their offense is Riley Leonard.
Yes.
So
yeah, he's the second leading rusher.
He's 20 yards behind. What is he? 338 yards to 358 yards.
238 to 253.
Yeah. So he's 20 yards off their leading rusher, right? So yeah, he's a good quarterback. But if they make him one-dimensional, if they stop him from running the ball, or if they stop
the pass game,
if they stop him from throwing the ball, either way,
yeah.
Is Duke going to be able to cope with either not being able to run or pass? Are they, you know what I mean? Are they going to be able to cope with being pushed one direction with that?
Well, I mean, Mike Elko, the head coach of Duke, I mean, he is a defensive guru, so he'll have to make adjustments if it comes down to that. I don't know that Duke can stop Notre Dame on the ground, though.
Yeah,
that's to me. I think that's going to be the biggest telling factor of this game. If Notre Dame shows up and just pounds them and pounds them and pounds them, I don't know how you stop that, because if you do start loading the box, Sam Hartman can throw the football.
He'll sling it on you. Yeah.
Now Notre Dame's got some clusters at wide receiver as far as injuries go. They're hoping that Jaden Thomas and Tyree are going to be able to go. One of them, I think it's Merriweather, has the hamstring, but it's going to be a very interesting game. Duke 4-0, 3-1 against the spread. Notre Dame 4-1, 3-1-1 against the spread. This will be Notre Dame's 6th game. Think about that. And it's not the end of September. It will be the last,
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, they
they've
played the
already
week
played
0 versus
half
Navy.
their-
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's strength is the passing game, but Duke's strength is the pass defense. I mean, they're rated number 1 in the nation right now, just averaging, allowing 4.4 yards per attempt. So I agree with you, Jeff. If Notre Dame comes in and just pounds the rock, is Duke going to be able to keep up? Because they can obviously defend the pass, but can they defend the run? That's going to be the big question for this game.
Are they physical enough? Because Notre Dame, as long as those guys aren't beat up off the Ohio State game.
And I don't think they are, other than the receivers. I hadn't really heard any more injuries as far as. But look, we'll go back to who have they played so far, okay? Duke beat Clemson, right?
Yep.
Clemson shot themselves in the foot several times down there. But a Lafayette team that is no good. Northwestern, we all know the problems that's going on at Northwestern. And a UConn team that's
garbage.
just simply fell off the face of the earth.
Well, Duke gave up 7 to Clemson. They gave up 7 to Lafayette. They gave up 7 to UConn, and Northwestern was able to score 14. But Duke's averaging damn near 40 points a game.
Yep.
So you can't discount them, but I don't think they're going to come away.
But
with a
when they
win in
played
this
the
game.
one team with the defense, Clemson,
Yeah.
28, and I think only one of the 7 of the 28 points was off a defensive touchdown by Duke.
So they, I don't feel them coming away with a victory in this game.
I like Notre Dame. I'll lay the 5.5.
I don't know if they're going to cover though. I don't know if I would. I'm actually not going to touch it.
Okay. I am going to touch it, but I'll get to that later.
All right.
Uh-oh. Red alert.
Red alert. Oh shit! How about Kansas?
Yeah, this line opened Texas minus 18 to 63.5. Got bet down to Texas minus 16.5, and the total went down half a point to 63. You look at this game, Texas 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. Kansas 4-0 straight up, 2-2 against the spread. But look at the points that these teams score. And don't forget, last year, Texas curb stomped them too. Now, no doubt about it, Jalen Daniels, the quarterback for Kansas, he's awesome. Hell of an athlete. The problem here is Kansas can't stop anybody. I mean, they let BYU score 28 on them last week. And that's not a good offense. That's an offensive challenge BYU team. They gave up 17 to Missouri State, 23 to Illinois. Come on now. And Nevada, 24, and they got lucky to win that game at Nevada 2 weeks ago. This is a Kansas team that can score, but they have not played a defense like they're about to see in these Longhorns. Texas might have the best front seven in the nation.
Whew. It's a big statement, Jeffrey.
They might have the best front seven in the nation. They are dominant up front. Their offensive weapons are there. Quinn Ewers, Heisman hopeful. We'll see how that goes. He really hadn't played that great this year, but 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, 1,000 yards. He should be better than that.
So Texas is going to score close to 50 in this game. I don't think Kansas can run with that.
I don't think they can either. I like Texas, and I like the over. I like the over.
You like Texas and the giving up 18?
16.5.
Okay, yeah, that's what it opened at, 18. But yeah, you like you're going to give up 16.5, huh?
I'm going to give it up, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right, so moving on.
Alabama at Mississippi State. This line opened Bama minus 14, 46.5, and just slightly ticked up to Bama minus 14.5, and total stayed the same. When you see a game like this, you got to think Mississippi State coming off that, I don't know if you want to call it a devastating loss to South Carolina, but they definitely had a chance to win that game several times. It's a team that struggled all year. They've lost 2 in a row now. LSU put 41 up on them. And you got a focused Bama team now. I believe we can agree that Saban's got their attention, right?
Saban knows their identity.
Yeah,
he knows now that they're not going to outscore anybody.
Nope. He's going back to
the
old Saban.
He ain't got no choice.
No. Before, pre-Mac Jones, pre-Tua, pre-Bryce Young.
Before he could score 45 points a game, he had to play old style SEC, and that's what he's doing now. They're calling the running plays, but I guarantee you, Milroe's being told, "Hey, if it's not wide open, run it.
Just run it.
Just run it.
Don't turn the ball over.
Right. Don't force anything.
No.
So
I think they're going to control time of possession. So
we talked about this every time we talk about Mississippi State. When Mike Leach unfortunately left us, the team he built was an air raid team, right?
yes,
So the offensive lineman, I mean, that goes for the whole offense, right? And you saw last week, Spencer Rattler got after him. South Carolina's defense played really good against him. And now they got to go face this Bama defense. It doesn't bode well.
no, it's not gonna be a good look. They only put up 14 against LSU.
Yeah, against that defense.
Against a terrible defensive backfield.
Right.
So this is going to be a rough game for Mississippi State. We knew up front that they were kind of a train wreck coming into the season. I think we all agreed on that out of the gate. For me, it's a low, what is it, 46.5? Is that what it was?
46.5. So it basically takes 7 touchdowns. I don't see it.
I don't either.
No. This is a 35-7 game or, somewhere in there. Mississippi State might get 10, whatever.
30 to 10.
Yeah, I don't see
33 to 10.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I'm on that same page with you. So, and I think Alabama should cover.
All right, well, let's jump into our picks from last week, how we finished up, and then talk about our picks for this week. Who wants to get us started?
I'll go ahead and jump in here. Texas Tech versus West Virginia. I had Texas Tech covering on the against West Virginia. West Virginia ended up covering that game, so I lost that one. Utah, UCLA. Utah was favored by 4.5. Picked Utah to cover that one. They won 14-7. Kentucky versus Vanderbilt. Kentucky was 14-point favorite. They covered that one as well. So I am 2 for 3 for week 4, and I'm trending up 5 for 12 for the season at 42%. So.
Oh, there you go. All right, boys. So I had to go back and look at my previous picks from week 1 through 4, and I am 7-3 this year. So I am doing fantastic. I'll just have you know. If I had a lot of money, I'd be winning a lot, but I don't have a lot of money, so I'm not winning a lot. But that being said, I was 2-3 this week, or last week. I took FSU to beat Clemson by more than 2.5. They did. I took UAB in the points against Georgia, which Georgia has not covered all year long, and they continued that trend. And then I took the loss I took was BYU. I thought they would be able to keep within 9.5 of Kansas, and they were not able to do that. So Kansas ended up beating BYU by more than 9.5, and I took a loss there. So that's 2 out of 3.
Go ahead, Chris. Knock him out.
I had a stellar week. Just kidding. So I was 5-6-2. Had a couple of pushes in there. What really screwed me, man, is I really had that Notre Dame to win the game, and that kind of lost me one. And then I took a hit on your boys. I bet on your boys, Auburn, Jeff. I got on the Auburn wagon. I got on that Hugh Freeze wagon. You told me not to do it. I don't know if it was me trying to build your confidence or if I really thought that they would hold strong, but either way,
dumpster fire.
No good. So 5-6-2 for me last week. Nothing to write home about. I didn't get crushed, but had a lot of games just a few points away from being
really good.
Really good, right?
Yeah.
So many close games. I mean, a lot of it came down to the wire on a lot of those games.
Yep.
So.
Well, last week I was 5-4. Thank God. But the blowout special won again. The blowout special's 4-1 on the year. But I tell you this, I have learned my lesson on SMU. I've learned my lesson. I'm off the SMU train. I had them plus 6.5 against TCU, and they got beat by 34-17. They got beat by 17. They got doubled up.
I was on the TCU train last year. I think I went 7-1 with TCU last year.
I'm off the SMU train. Did have the under into Utah, UCLA. That was a winner. I went back, tried to be sneaky here and go under 36.5 with Oak State and Iowa State, and that score was 27-34. That was a definite loser. We hit South Carolina. We hit Akron had Akron plus 17.5 against Indiana. That was a winner. Push on the Ohio State Notre Dame. Went to the Kent State, took 27.5 against Fresno State. They got beat by 43. Hawaii covered, and Oregon was the blowout special, and that was an ass whooping.
That was a blowout.
Could have been 70.
So I'm 0 for 2 on my upset alerts. So I had
Red
called.
alert, red alert.
Yeah,
red
I
alert.
called. I thought the Boilermakers were going to come on strong against Wisconsin, and
Way
they
to go,
got destroyed 38-17.
Yeah, you got mysticized by the Spitzy on that one. All right, so moving on to this week's picks. I'll get us started here. So I am going to, for some reason, jump off the UGA not covering bandwagon and
you jackass.
and jump on the UGA beating
Homer.
Auburn by more than 14.5. Not only for my good friend Jeff here, but for my brother in Texas who is an Auburn fan and went to
God bless
Auburn.
you.
God bless his soul. They are going to lose handily by the UGA Bulldogs this week. UGA has won the last 6 games by a combined score of 178-57. Auburn was one-dimensional. They're second in rushing in the SEC, but they're dead last in passing offense. And Jeff is just over here rolling his eyes. That's my pick, taking UGA over Auburn by more than 14.5. Then I'm going to take Duke. We talked about this a little bit earlier. Everybody's hating on Duke. I'm going to take Duke and the 6 points versus Notre Dame. They've beaten every opponent by 21 or more points.
5.5.
The defense has been stellar. They've
don't
not
get
allowed
6.
more than 14 points by anyone they've played, even though they've really not played anyone. But Notre Dame's strength is the passing game, and the strength of Duke is the pass defense, only allowing 4.4 yards per attempt. That's good for number 1 in the nation. So I'm taking Duke and the points, and that's all I got this week. Who's up next?
All right. So while he's looking up the current odds here, so I've got Utah versus Oregon State Beavers. Oregon State is 3-point favorite. It is a home game, but they've been having some quarterback issues, and their defense has been struggling. So I got Utah to cover that one. I think Utah is just too strong for them. Next one, Clemson versus Syracuse. Clemson is a 7-point favorite. I've actually got Syracuse to cover that one. I mean, I'm just not impressed with Klubnik. His accuracy has not been great, and Syracuse has been averaging 507 yards per game with a balanced run and pass attack. So I like Syracuse in that one. Oregon versus Stanford. The Ducks are a 27.5 favorite for that, and I think Oregon will easily cover that. You know, they're going to be on the road at Stanford, so hopefully bad Bo Nix doesn't make the trip and the good Bo Nix shows up. Oregon's averaging 54 points per game and only giving up 13 points per game. So
Bad Bo on the road. Nah. It's 5.5 at Circa.
Okay. Staying at 5.5.
All right.
Yeah, buddy. So staying right here on this train with T, I like Utah going up into Oregon State. I'm showing a 44.5 total. I think we're going under. I think that Utah's defense is going to be too much for DJ Ukulele to come out and do anything with. I think that Utah is going to scrap and run and fight like they have this year so far. They're going to play better team football, and I think that they're going to keep a low-scoring game, control the clock, and really put pressure on that Oregon State offense. I think they're going to cover with that. So I'm taking Utah in that +3. I'm taking Utah on the money line to win the game and stay undefeated, and I'm taking the under. So I think I'm laying 3 opportunities on this game right here. Moving into Saturday, I got Michigan -17, just absolutely rolling Nebraska. I think that they're gonna destroy Nebraska. I think it's gonna be terrible.
If Jeff Sim plays, it's going to be real bad.
We got. Let's move on up to Colorado. I'm thinking we got like a 56-36-ish game. That's what I'm guessing right here. I'm going over 73.5. I think that these teams are going to score more than 18 points a quarter. And I'm taking the Buffaloes at +21.5. I think they may come out, like Jeff said. I mean, I think they might be losing big early, and maybe even going into the third quarter. I think they rally, put up a couple of touchdowns, 10 to 14 points in that fourth quarter, to at least close it down and get within that 21.5. Florida. Give me Florida. Give me them Gators. And that one point, I'm a dog fan. I'm over here doing the Gator chop. Hey, listen, Florida +1. Give me that. Give me Florida for the win on the money line as they continue their revenge tour to beat the shit out of Kentucky. Don't you think for 1 second the Florida Gators have forgot that they lost their ass to Kentucky and Tennessee last year. Yep. Now they took it to Tennessee. We saw what happened. I think they're going to do the same thing to Kentucky this week. I tell you what, I think Missouri is going to go down into Vanderbilt and absolutely destroy the Commodores. Missouri's giving up 13.5, and I think they're going to cover against Vandy. I think Missouri is they're undefeated still. I think they're physical, and I think that they're just going to absolutely lay the hammer down in Nashville. I am agreeing with Tony. I believe that Oregon is going to cover that 27. Is it 27 or 27.5? Did it move? They're playing at Stanford, but I don't think that matters. I think that Oregon's going to go down and put up another 45, and Stanford's going to score about 7 points. All right, after Oregon drops 100 points on Stanford, I think that, I think Tennessee continues to struggle. I think that South Carolina is plus 12.5. And I think I'm taking Spencer Rattler and those 12.5 points against Tennessee. I don't know if South Carolina will be able to pull out the win, but I think they're going to be damn close to winning that game. So, and then my last one, GATA. Give me my alma mater, Georgia Southern, minus 6.5 at home over Coastal Carolina. Let's get after that ass. All right, I'm done, Jeffrey. I got a lot of them this week, though. I felt good about them.
Yeah, I got 8 myself, and I don't really feel good about them, but we'll see what happens with this. But I'm going to start Thursday night, 7:30, CBS Sports Network, Middle Tennessee State. Shout out to Brooks Nunley. Travels to Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky's 5.5 and 60. Give me Western Kentucky minus 5.5. Middle Tennessee State is terrible versus the pass, and all Western Kentucky wants to do is throw it all over you. I don't think they can keep up with
48 passes to 12 rushes a game. it's something stupid like that.
Yeah, it's the true air raid, right? Then we're going to go Saturday at 12 o'clock on ESPN Plus. Buffalo travels to Akron. Joe Moorhead, former Mississippi State coach, former Penn State offensive coordinator, former Oregon offensive coordinator. The man can call some offense. Oregon is 2-58. This is a tale of two teams, one going up, the other one going down, and Buffalo is headed to hell. Give me Akron, minus 2. Saturday, 3:30, ACC Network. Bowling Green travels to the Flats to take on the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Give me Georgia Tech, minus 21.5. Almost made one of my blowouts.
I looked at that game, and I started to put it on my list, but I had so many that I just laid off.
This almost made one of my blowouts. I think Mr. Tim Strain and Big Gary, I think they're going to be very happy with what they see Saturday. Then we're going to go Saturday night, 6 o'clock ESPN. LSU travels to the Grove to take on Ole Miss. LSU's 2.5 and 63. Give me LSU against a Fugazi Ole Miss running Rebels. I think this game right here, I think LSU is going to dominate this game. I do not see Ole Miss keeping up with them. LSU's front seven is for real. They will get after Jackson Dart. I just don't think Ole Miss can keep up with them. Give me LSU minus 2.5. Then we're going to go back to Saturday night, 7 o'clock, and this game's actually on the NFL Network. Coastal Carolina travels to Statesboro.
Come on down for them Statesboro Blues, baby.
I think it's Hemingway Stadium or something they call it down there.
I call it Irk Russell Stadium.
Yeah, it should be Irk Russell.
That's what I call it. I don't give a damn what anybody else calls it. I don't care who gave them the money. That man put them on the map.
Yeah, I'm going to take Georgia Southern. I'm going to lay 6.5, and I really think this is the last time that we're going to get a good price on these Georgia Southern Eagles because they are playing some ball down there.
They are. So, nobody's noticing, I feel
That's
like.
exactly why I think that this might be the last time we get a decent price.
They rolled into Wisconsin and made a game out of it. And Wisconsin's playing good football this year.
6 turnovers in that game.
And 6 turnovers, yeah.
If not, that's a whole different game. And Coastal Carolina, with Tim Beck as a head coach, I mean, Grace McCall can only do so much. The offense is not good. Georgia State went up there last week and beat the brakes off of Coastal Carolina, and now they got to travel down there to Statesboro. Mollywopped them, boat raced them, and whatever else you want to call it. So, yeah, give me Georgia Southern minus 6.5. I got 3 blowout specials this week.
Uh-oh.
Start Saturday, 12 o'clock.
SMU?
And SMU ain't one of them. Saturday, 12 o'clock on ESPN2. UAB, the Fighting Trent Dilfers. They travel to Tulane. Michael Pratt's back.
Oh, Tulane's going to bust that ass. What's the line on that game?
Tulane's 21.5 and 59. Give me Tulane by 35.
Ooh.
Oh, let me tell you, son. What UAB cannot do is defend the pass whatsoever. I don't know why they didn't open it up last week. Tulane can play defense. UAB is in some serious trouble right here. They're going to get mollywopped. Then for the second one, Saturday, 8 o'clock, ESPN2. West Virginia travels to Fort Worth to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. TCU's 12 and 50.5. West Virginia's quarterback is probably not going to play, and his backup is not any good. I'm going to lay the 12 with TCU, and this might be another 30-point victory. TCU just put an ass whooping on Houston. Although Houston is Houston, but they've been playing pretty good this year. But I'm going to go TCU minus 12 and look for the ass kicking.
Well, TCU really should be undefeated.
They're coming back.
They should be undefeated. Coach Prime got them. Everything fell in place. All the dominoes lined up perfectly for him.
And they had a chance to win that game, too.
And they had a big chance to win. So.
And then for the last blowout of the week, Saturday, 10:30, FS1. This is your get out game because Hawaii's not playing this week. So this is the last game on the schedule. Nevada is traveling to Fresno State. Fresno State's laying 24.5. Give me Fresno State.
And 40.
By a lot.
All right, so let's move on to this week's Stay in the Truck Awards. I'm going to start us off, and I've got to just take the big obvious one here. So Notre Dame's defensive unit, coaches and all. So the final seconds of the biggest and possible season-defining game that may decide if the Irish go to the playoffs, they line up in the red zone against Ohio State with only 10 men on the field. So I would have to ask, where are the checks and balances for Notre Dame's defensive unit? Every time we've always had, the defensive coordinators, there's always a position coach, and then you got even the press box are usually counting number of players on the field. So no checks and balances. This is one mental mistake by the defense. They were caught up in the gravity of the moment, I guess. They forgot about the fundamentals, and it ended up costing them a game. So Notre Dame defense, stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck.
All right, so my Stay in the Truck award this week is back going to the New York Mets, but this time it's not on the ownership. It is on the field crew, for lack of a better term. I don't know who exactly is in charge of the field crew, if it's ownership or if they've got a field crew director or whoever it may be, but the infield at Citi Field wasn't covered with a tarp for at least some portion of last weekend. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Ophelia was moving in, and it began pelting New York City for 4 straight days, ruining the field before the Marlins-New York Mets games. Now, the Marlins are in a tight race for the last National League playoff spot, just a half a game behind the Cubs. And come to find out, being the field wasn't covered, the field was too soggy, they couldn't get it prepared, they had to postpone the game, totally screwing up the Marlins' pitching rotation and causing all kinds of havoc for the Florida Marlins. So the Florida Marlins are pretty pissed. New York Mets have screwed it up, had a tropical storm coming in, don't cover the field, stay in the truck, New York Mets.
Stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck. Oh, my God. So, all right, this week, my Stay in the Truck award is going to go out to ESPN for trying to make everything political and getting into the BS. So a good thing happened this week. The former Cincinnati Bengal quarterback Trevor Siemian gets signed to the Jets practice squad this week in lieu of our man Aaron Rodgers going down. And they're writing a little article about him signing and him getting on with the Jets practice squad and going to be part of the team and getting off the couch, giving him a little chance at a rebirth of something, maybe getting a paycheck. And halfway through this article, it goes into Colin Kaepernick. What Colin Kaepernick did this week is he wrote a letter to Jets management explaining all these reasons why he would appreciate an opportunity to be on the practice squad and blah, blah, blah. But Colin Kaepernick hasn't played football since 2016. When he played last, and this is what people forget because of all the rights and activist stuff that he was doing, when he played football, his last year as a starting quarterback, he was ranked 31st out of 32 quarterbacks. So the guy, aside from all of his off-the-field antics and on-the-field antics that got him in that situation, he wasn't playing good football. And now, how many years later are we? It's 7 years later. The guy has not played an ounce of football, and he's writing letters to team management just to stay in the media, saying, "Oh, I would appreciate the opportunity to play." But the worst part of that is ESPN is still giving him credit. They're still bringing him into the mainstream and putting a light on this guy. Like, let him drift off into the distance. Let him take that big-ass check he got from Nike and let him go spend it and do whatever he wants to do and be whatever activist he wants to be. I don't care. But the guy's not a good football player. He had one and a half good years, maybe, and now he's riding off into the sunset. So give Trevor Siemian his due. Keep the light shining on that guy. Good luck to you and the Jets, Trevor. Sorry that they tried to steal your sunshine. ESPN, stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck.
My stay in the truck goes to Keyshawn, give me the damn ball Johnson. This son of a bitch here. Keyshawn Johnson claims that coaches chipped in to help Oregon beat Colorado. I'm just going to read y'all what has been quoted that he said. Keyshawn says he talked to another college coach, and he said, quote, "They were telling me, man, I've never heard from another assistant coach on how much information was being given to Oregon staff about the game plan against Colorado so they could beat them and Deion." Now, he did this on his, here, I guess he's on some show called Undisputed now or whatever. I have no idea. But forget that Oregon outgained them by 518 yards. Forget that they were up 35-0 at halftime. Forget that we all knew that they have no offensive line and that Oregon is a good football team. But this guy who can, I mean, obviously he gets paid for running his mouth like the rest of them. For him to come out and say things like that on a TV show that millions of people watch. I don't know if it's on ESPN or not. I have no idea. I don't care. But as far as I'm concerned, he can take his damn ball and stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck.
Stay in the truck.
That's it for this week's show. We really appreciate you tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe, and leave us some comments. Let us know how we're doing. Stay in the truck.